So it snowed today, snowed this morning. It's going to be raining for a couple of days, and then we're moving to snow all next week. And all the trees have lost all their leaves. Pretty much all of the seeds have fallen for the year. And normally I just let nature take its course and let the strong seedlings grow in the spring, and then maybe I'll collect some of them. I have collected several Japanese maples that have grown from trees in my yard, and I do get some really interesting ones. Now this year, with it being a new decade, it's 2020, thought I'd help nature along a little bit, and I collected some seeds at the end of fall, and I got them in some pots here ready to go. I got 4 varieties, and I'm going to be placing those in some seed flats. But I'm not doing any artificial stratification. I'm not using a refrigerator in the house or anything. I'm not doing any heat. All I'm doing is just basically what nature does, but in a seed tray. So I'm going to get started on that. I'll show you the process I'm doing, and I'm hoping to get some really healthy looking Japanese maples in spring. So we'll see how it goes. I actually pulled these off of the tree before they can actually fall, and they're from 2 different trees. Red pygmy on this side, and this one is green cascade. So red pygmy is kind of a tall dwarf, I guess you'd call it. It's a red leaf linear lobum maple, and so it has that strap-like bamboo type leaves. And it does grow to maybe 12 feet tall or so, and the one I have in my yard is about that height. So it's about max height for that tree. Green Cascade, this one right here, it has a little bit different leaf shape. That one is actually Acer japonicum, and it has a larger leaf, brilliant orange, red, yellow fall color. That one's highly desirable. It has a very low and angular growth habit. I also have a couple of varieties that make really small seeds like this, and I don't know the names of them. One of them came from a neighborhood tree, and one of them came from one of the trees in the yard. So these ones came from trees that make very small leaves, and it looks like small leaf varieties can also produce very small seeds. At least these 2 did. I believe there's over 1,000 varieties of Japanese maples, so I may not be able to identify them, but I'm going to try to grow them. The seed trays I have are just these wooden boxes. I used some spare lumber I had lying around, and I made them pretty shallow. They're only about 4 inches deep, and they're pretty wide. They're almost 20 inches to 24 inches square. So these are going to be plenty big enough for the amount of seeds that I want to grow. And I'm not growing individual little pots of them. I'm just going to sprinkle the seeds on top just as if they had fallen from the trees, and I'm just going to press them into the soil. Now you notice that the soil is chunky. It's not a fine soil. It's actually a mix of fine bark, more chunky bark, pieces of pumice. It's got a lot of variation in soil texture. I've noticed in the past that what that chunky soil texture does, such as when they fall on top of the landscape bark in my yard, the bases and the roots have to curve around the bark chunks in order to grow, and they make some really interesting bases. For bonsai, that's ideal, to have a plant that starts out with some interesting twists and curves. So that is what I'm doing. That's the reason for having this chunky soil like this. So here we get to sprinkling. This first one I'm going to have this little small variety here, and this is not happening in any fancy way whatsoever. All I'm basically doing is just letting these fall the way that they would in nature. Some of them will come up together right next to each other. Some of them will be kind of away from each other. And there's probably very much more scientific ways of doing this. Nature is going to do it the way it wants to, no matter what science wants to try to do. So there we go. There's the first one. Next one is another small variety. And then we have the last couple of them. The last couple are going to be a little bit bigger seeds, same size of tray, same technique, and these ones are actually going right on top of the snow. I'm just going to press them into it. So here we go with that. This closest one's going to be Green Cascade. Just going to stick that right in the center there. And I got tons of these seeds, and I am perfectly fine if they have multiple seeds growing from one, because maybe they'll fuse together. And if they fuse together, they can make a bigger base. I actually have far too many of these than I really need. These are very easy to collect because that particular tree produces so many seeds. Blup, totally unscientific. Red pygmy is coming up next. There we go, they're all in there. I'm just going to be taking and smashing them down into here a little bit. Not much more than about that, and I think I'm probably going to put a little covering just to hold them down so that all the birds don't eat them. And these will be completely covered with snow next week, because next week is going to snow a lot. The other ones are just so small I don't even need to press them down. So there they are back there. They're just going to sit for the winter time, and I'm going to let nature do its normal thing. No scarification, no stratification, really very little intervention from the human here. Just letting nature do its thing like it normally would, as if these had fallen from the tree onto the cold ground and sat out for the winter time. I have hundreds of Japanese maple seedlings from my trees in the yard that sprout every year. And I'm pretty sure with the hundreds of seeds I've collected that I should have some success in these boxes, in addition to the ones that come out of the ground. And I'll see in spring really how that compares, and if I like doing it this way, or if I'm just going to continue to just dig them out of the ground every now and then. I'm really hoping this way will work really well, because I have collected the red pygmy from the ground, and I haven't had either any of these other three varieties sprouted before. The very small leaf Japanese maples are excellent Japanese maples that are hard to find. I don't even know the variety of the one that's in the ground in my yard anymore, but it's really great. I love that maple. The Green Cascade is one that I've never tried for bonsai, but it's very interesting. I may just have it be more landscaping plants. So that one I'm really curious to see, because that one has a great leaf shape and color. The fall color is really, really great. And then the one from the neighborhood, that's just a bonus. It's hanging out over the sidewalk, so we'll see how that one goes. For now, I'm actually done with them. The rain's going to fall, snow's going to fall next, and they'll freeze. We'll be getting some freezing weather next week. We might dip down even into the teens, which is very rare for zone 8 where I'm at. How about I just take you a little tour of what maples could look like as they grow. Here's a standard Japanese maple. I did a trunk chop not too long ago. And then next to that, behind it actually, is this Korean maple. Korean maples you hardly see in bonsai, and that is actually very close looking to a vine maple in leaf. This one's another Japanese maple. It's got a decent root flare, and then underneath the soil here is some really interesting root development. It's just a little bit wobbly in here, but that's because I actually put it in this pot maybe 2 years ago. This coming spring, it's very much due for a repotting. I'm going to be digging it up, checking out the roots, probably attaching it to a board or just a shallower grow box. What I typically do is work on the roots for I don't know, get 3 or more years before I consider putting it into a bonsai pot, unless the roots are really outstanding right away. And with this one, it came in a large nursery can. They were not great roots. This is what they normally look like when you bring them home from the nursery. This is a large size nursery container. It's probably 5-gallon size. I don't really know. It's a dwarf variety called Kotomaru, and its base is pretty good. I haven't done any root work other than combing away just to see what I was working with. As I turn it around, you can see that it's got a decent spread in most directions, and it looks like under the soil surface I have some uncovering of other roots to do. It does have a couple of sections, such as this one right here, that is actually missing a little bit of rootage in the middle there. And I have found that I can do some root grafting, or I can just let that be a feature where it's got an open section on it. It's a dwarf maple, but it grows really fast, and it can heal scars like nobody's business. So this big scar right here, this was a large chop, about the same thickness as the rest of the trunk here, and it is more than halfway sealed up already. Now this scar over here is completely sealed. It's actually got all of the callus tissue has rolled all the way into the inside there. I did actually a concave cut on that one because that was a little bit bulged out, and so that one will continue to roll in and then kind of flatten that out because it is such an open space there. That's what I was going for. What happens is over time they wind up being a little bit closer to this one on this side. This one is completely rolled over, just leaves a little bit of a bulge there, and that's okay. This is going to be kind of a lumpy trunk. That's just fine by me. Well, that's it for this time. I got my seeds planted. Still got a lot of work to do on some of these trees in here. I have a whole section that you can't see in the shot here of boxwoods that I got to work on. Do some trimming and get those prepped for repotting, because these are in nursery cans. So I got a lot of soil to sift. I got a lot of plants to figure out which pots are going to go in. So I got pot selection coming up pretty soon. I'll have soil selection and some of the other suggestions from the viewers out there of what they like to see on the channel. So I have moved from 2 videos a week down to 1 video because I do have a lot going on, and a second video each week is pretty rough. Doing the 1 video each week is a time commitment, and so I am going to continue to try to do well with that 1 video and put out content that I've heard is important to viewers out there in the bonsai world. So there will be a lot more coming on the Bonsai Echo channel. Thank you for being here for my journey, and thank you for watching.